Welcome to Viewmasters. I'm Ed, joined by Rusty. I can't believe it, but we are back.
You know what they said? They said these guys are too old. They said they didn't have anything left in them. But
I don't want to hear that.
Well, here we are. We're in the new year. But you know what it's like? It's like bringing the Necro brothers back into the game.
Oh my God, Phil Necro and what was his brother's name?
Necro.
I can't.
Necro.
No one younger than us is going to know who those guys are.
Did they have anything left on that knuckleball? But they're trying. They're throwing.
That's so true. And it's 2022. We hope to get more episodes out than we did in 2021. Rusty, I think you were on one episode last year. That's a small bar to step over.
Well, we're starting out pretty good. We're going to have first episode out in early January.
That's so true. And we're recording it right now, January 3rd, I think.
Mm-hmm.
January 3rd.
We partied so hard. Well, obviously,
what a bender.
New year. But let's just tell everyone, how did you spend your New Year's?
Oh my God, I took the train to Seattle.
I have to
For
say,
the longest time. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think this is such a cool idea.
Oh yeah. I mean, I thought I had a mostly good time. I for the longest time, I always wanted to take the Coast Starlight. Was that what it's called? Was that what the train I was on for 40 hours was called? To Seattle. I've heard it's like one of the most scenic train routes in America. And I saw that the prices were pretty cheap on New Year's for like a sleeper car. And I thought, why not do it? New Year's Eve always sucks anyway. And why not go for it?
You know, I told Jen about this idea or this thing that you were doing for New Year's. And I was like pushing her about it. It's like, this is something we should do next year. It didn't have to be on New Year's, but just like down the line. And then I saw your Instagram stories and I saw how small your room was. And I was just like, there's no way I could survive that for 40 hours.
Yeah. So the room was pretty small. This was a roomette for anyone who's ever done this voyage. I actually panicked at the last second and tried to get a bedroom. And I got an error twice on Amtrak's site. And I was charged for both of those times, which is still a pending situation. But I did not get the upgrade. So yeah, it was a really small situation. But I kind of liked being locked in a box for almost 2 days.
Must have stunk. How long did it take to get the stink out?
The place was, after a half hour, it seemed like Motley Crue had been through there.
When you lay down in the bed there, is your head touching one side of the wall and your feet touching the other? Or is there more room?
No, I've got to give props on this one because you actually could stretch out completely.
Oh, really? My biggest fear, though, is there a toilet in one of those roomettes?
That's the big thing. That's why I wanted to get the bedroom, because there's a toilet in those and a shower. I had to walk to the toilet.
And you're a guy that likes to go.
I pee between 16 and 18 times a day. So this was big for me. And if you could picture it, on the walk back to my roomette, there was this older couple who always had their door open, which faced directly at me. And they would always just stare at my crotch as I came out of there. And I was just like, if I pee my pants at all, they're gonna be the first to know.
Well, maybe they're like looking at me like, hey, honey, look, he's like us. He pees his pants too.
Right, that would have been the best outcome. That's a great conversation starter.
What's the worst outcome then?
I don't know. Well, I'll tell you, the worst outcome is that we hit and killed someone on the way there. So this was the death train.
What good energy to start the show with, killing someone in the train?
Well, no, we were like 40 minutes outside of Seattle, and this is a 34-hour trip. So it was like hour 33, we killed the guy. The train stopped like in the snowy night. It's like Dr. Zhivago. We're like, and just 5 hours went by. And the conductor kept coming on the mic and being like, the police, like the railroad police and the state police and like the local police are here, and they're all fighting about who's going to take jurisdiction of the investigation. So we haven't even got started yet. And things started to devolve. They really did.
It's a free for all. How many people did you collect?
I don't even know what you mean. But I had not eaten lunch or dinner. I started getting really hungry. I was like, oh man. And they opened up the cafe car for like half an hour, but everything sold out in like 10 minutes. And they made an announcement that everything had sold out. And you could hear in the background of the announcement yelling. And I was like, this is like a fucking zombie movie. We're all fucked. So then I went looking for food. I was like, maybe I'll just come across.
What are you
food.
Foraging in the forest?
I was foraging on this train, and I'm coming up the stairs, and this lady's coming down, and she was the woman who had worked all like the meal services, and I tip like a madman, so I figured like she says to me, "Oh, are you hungry too?" And I was like, "Yes," and I thought she was it seemed like she was gonna like lead me to some hidden food, and she was like, "I wanted to ask you something." Oh. I said, what? And she said, "What is your name?" I said, "Oh, my name is Ed." She said, suddenly seemed really disappointed. And she's like, "I thought it was Edward." And she walked away. And I was just like, wait, it is Edward. It is. What?
She could put that together.
Why? I know, but I mean, it was so weird. It's like her whole mood changed.
And you don't have any resolution on that, right?
No, but it was so weird. I was like, maybe she had like a dead son, Edward, and she was going to give me food. But overall, I'm glad I went. It was a good trip.
I'm just wondering because you had this small room, you're by yourself, 34 hours, and I'm sure you could only entertain yourself.
This is wait. Hold on. This is not the clean episode.
I like that we're back like 5 minutes in. It already begins.
Oh yeah. Oh, it has to.
But I'm sure.
Oh yeah. No, to answer your question, yes, twice. And also I haven't planned it like that since I was like 16. I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? Because I got to do cleanup. I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, let's get a towel in place. But when like, come on, 34 hours in a little tiny box, it's like you got to.
Yeah. Was it?
But I could really hear the people next to me though. Like, someone coughs or something, you totally hear that. So I was just like, I really got to be.
You got to wear headphones. You got to really take yourself out.
I wear headphones all the time, no matter what. I'm not going to watch like Netflix at full volume. That'd be fucking demented.
Were the old people watching? You were pleasuring yourself.
They're like, "I know that walk, honey. He just had a good time."
Just to say, because you had an exciting trip. You got to witness body parts strewn across the snow. But for me, my New Year's having a Tyler was very uneventful.
Go on.
Jen was asleep by 8:30.
8:30.
She got her booster shot and she was wiped out from it.
Okay. Yeah.
And but Nova woke up from her bedtime, so I was partied hard with her.
You're probably poking her to keep her awake too. You're like, I need someone hanging out with on New Year's.
I'm playing Chivalry 2 by myself on New Year's.
Nova, you're like, this baby's not going to sleep.
But you know how I love doing this. And I was thinking, and I looked it up, and I was just like, do you know, because I know you like to know how old we are compared to other actors when they were in a role.
My God.
Oh, yeah. Do you know that we are older now than Jack Nicholson was in The Shining?
I can't breathe.
When I first saw The Shining, which I think was in my teens, I would have thought he was ancient. And he hasn't acted in like 10 years.
Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's completely gone.
What do you mean by that?
I'm not making fun of it. I mean, there's no way he could act. I'm not going to name names. I know someone that had a meeting with him, and this was years ago. So he's way worse now. But yeah, they went up to his house, and he was like, "I'm Jack," and he was like, "I'm excited about the role." But he was eating like out of his garbage can. And he did a lot of like things like that where the guy was like, "Oh, this guy can't be in a movie." And this was like 2014. I'm not making fun of it. I mean, I'll have dementia for fucking sure. So
does he have dementia? Or maybe he just enjoys a meal out of the garbage can.
No, I don't. I'm pretty sure it's like very advanced dementia. I mean, because I also read once on a gossip blog that he would go to I found this endearing. He would go to yard sales and just buy everything.
He has like the warehouse, like where the Ark of the Covenant is, just filled with shit. Yeah. But it's all garbage that nobody else wanted. Is he just showing up with a briefcase of cash, though? Because you're not paying with a credit card at a yard sale.
So New York Ninja, Rusty, can you tell us a little bit about this film and how it's so unique?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're trying to figure out what kind of movie you want to watch, whether it's a drama, action film, love story, like this movie's like 20 movies in one.
Okay.
But it's really unique because we actually don't know what the real storyline is. But Vinegar Syndrome, they found this footage and they kind of put something together that's interesting.
They found the unedited footage from a movie that had to be abandoned. And we'll get into the director in a second. But basically a modern guy from Vinegar Syndrome edited together. They didn't have any sound either. And
no, they had nothing, right? No sound, no call sheets.
And so it's basically like a movie that was created this year, but is actually from the 80s and features all this like great gritty New York City in the 80s shit.
Now, and they did all the voiceover stuff with actors that appeared in other Vinegar Syndrome releases, which is pretty interesting as well.
And it seems, I don't know, it's like you and I both own like 80 Vinegar Syndrome Blu-rays that we're never going to watch.
Yeah, I have a lot of them. I'm just like, why did I buy this? But it's cool looking. The art's cool. Yeah.
But they've always seemed like, cool people. So it's like, this is like them taking their company to the next level. And
I feel like they're cooler than the Arrow people.
Oh, wow. That's, I don't know why you'd even go there.
We abandoned Arrow a long time ago.
That's true. Although I've been really debating getting their Shawscope box set, which is 12 Kung Fu movies I'll never watch.
Anything with John Liu in it?
Come on, I don't know the answer to that.
Do you know any Kung Fu stars besides Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee?
Okay, let's get back on target here.
Got outed.
Okay, Rusty. So the film is found in the modern era by Vinegar Syndrome and by this guy Curtis Spieler, who was he re-edited it, that redirected it as I said, or edited it for the first time. And the original director is a guy named John Liu. John Liu was kind of a minor Taekwondo Kung Fu movie star. He was from Taiwan, where he learned Taekwondo. Now, Rusty, did you watch the documentary with this film?
I did watch the documentary.
That's
then 48 minutes of my life.
Then you know about Northern Kicks, Southern Fists.
Yes, I do.
So Hong Kong, it was mostly fist stuff.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
But the kicks, man.
Oh, yeah. But
the audience went crazy for kicks.
I have something else to say about those fists. Because it's like when you watch The Matrix and they did all that like kind of like punching and blocking stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was always kind of like not that into that. So that's why I love John Liu, who's a super kicker.
So you love John Liu based on this one movie you've seen him in?
Well, and there was another thing that made me love him is because I could really relate to him because he wasn't flexible enough to be a super kicker. Do you know that his sensei tortured him to stretch out his groin?
Wait, are you still not in that line of work?
I want to be tortured so I can finally sit cross-legged. You remember I used to have a stretching machine. You remember that? I'm sure we mentioned that before.
We both used it, not together, but independently. We used it.
I took my split from about 85 degrees to a cool 91.
That thing is, I don't know how, you just got to sit in there all day because the several times we used it, didn't make any progress. But it seems cool in theory. It seemed like you meant business.
It really did. It really did. Now, John Liu, he was discovered by the same guy who discovered Jackie Chan. What's that guy's story?
The guy had an eye. Now, you know what I thought was actually really interesting was one of the selling points on John Liu was that he actually fought against Chuck Norris in 1979 and defeated him.
That's interesting. My sensei from Nassau Community College claimed the same thing.
I was making Chuck Norris seem like a wimp. He's going to beat up by everyone.
I might throw myself into this. I might start saying I beat up Chuck Norris.
I love asking these questions. Do you think you could take Chuck Norris now? He's got to be in his late 70s now.
Yeah, I think I could.
Oh, yeah. Somebody might know him. He's going.
Let's go,
Ed. Talk shit.
Now, Rusty, when this was made, it was made in the year 1984. That was the peak of the ninja craze.
Now, that's interesting to me because I wasn't that big into like kung fu movies, so I never really knew when it peaked. Mm-hmm. But the way they talked about it in the documentary, it seemed like kung fu was like the biggest thing ever.
I'm talking about ninjas here. Now you're saying kung fu. These are whole different cultures.
Well, the ninja thing. I think there was a best-selling novel, right, called The Ninja.
Yeah, I read it every year. Yes, there was, and there was all those movies from like Canon that were like Enter the Ninja 3. Yeah. I remember. I mean, when we were little kids, remember how huge ninjas were, and then the Turtles. That was a little twist.
Well, one of the big selling features was on ninjas was the He-Man figure. What was his name? Ninjutsu.
Oh, no one gave a fuck about that guy.
No,
I don't think he was. I think he was like a later edition, unless I'm wrong. I feel like even Man of Arms was like, that guy's a fucking loser.
Man of Arms. You know it's Man at Arms. I thought Duncan was your friend.
Men? Okay. I can't tell. They both sound really weird to me right now. I think as a kid, I didn't like that name or that guy because of his mustache.
Well, the figure didn't have a mustache, so you're all over the place. You're a He-Man poser, is what you just revealed.
Okay, well, here's what the people don't know is that you have like a toy museum for real in your basement.
You've seen it.
I know, I love it. But so you should know Man at Arms.
I grew up with him. Grew up sleeping with him.
But back to John Liu for a second, Rusty. John Liu. So they tried to find this guy. And he currently lives in a shack in Vietnam and doesn't have any kind of electricity or internet. And when they finally got word to him, there's two different things said in the documentary, but it seems like he wasn't happy.
No.
And he's just wanted New York Ninja to stay buried.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this guy clearly is living off the grid for a reason.
Yeah.
And, it seems like the people didn't want to flat out say he was a dick, but it seemed like he was very difficult to work with.
Yeah, he definitely did seem like a guy who probably sunk his career with his personality.
Yeah. As
I aspire to do someday as well. Now, Rusty, a very interesting part of that documentary is when there was actually, even though this film was never even completed, somehow the New York Ninja was brought on to meet Regis Philbin.
Well, the actress that plays the reporter, the character Randy Rydell, she was a real journalist, right? Mm-hmm. And she worked with Regis Philbin?
Something like that.
But she dressed them up as the character, right?
Yeah. He showed up as the New York Ninja, and Regis was like, this is crazy!
I mean, I think this is before he was national, though. This was in, like, the Bay Area, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know where Regis got his start. I'm only a fan of his later work.
His current work.
Rusty, the cast. Don the Dragon Wilson. I'm not very familiar with him.
Oh, really? I thought for sure you would have been a fan.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, just because like action heroes was a huge thing for our childhood, like the Van Dammes and Steven Seagals. You think Don the Dragon Wilson would have been right up there?
I was more of a rewatcher of the A and B level. I didn't really have to get into the C level, you know?
I know. Did you know the name, though? You had to have known the name, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay. Did he beat up Chuck Norris as well?
I'm not sure, but I think I could take him as well today. Actually, no, he looked pretty fit in that documentary. And then Linnea Quigley also does a voice.
You know what's funny, though? Looking at like the voice actors for this, it's like, to me, it's like these are all A-list people. I'm looking at them and it's like, holy shit, this person's a voice actor. But meanwhile, I mean, I think most people probably never heard of any of these people.
I don't know. I think I'd be pretty starstruck if I met Matt Mittler.
When I saw Matt Mittler, I went nuts. It's like
when
the guy
you said to me, oh yeah, you said to me, you're like, Matt Mittler's in this. Like some like neuron in my brain fired, but it couldn't quite connect. I was like, I know that name from somewhere. But yeah, Matt Mittler, who's also done a lot of voice work, but they chose him because they liked him in a film called Battle for the Lost Planet. Now I've never seen this, Rusty, but I'm interested to check it out now.
I am too. That could be a future episode.
Michael Berryman is also in this film.
That's great for him. This guy has a very full, rich body of work.
Yeah, most famous from
Hills Have Eyes.
The House on the Hills Have Eyes.
Pluto. I believe his character was Pluto in that, right?
Yes. Now, he said he did it alone in his office. I guess everyone just kind of got their lines and they recorded it like we're recording this now.
Yeah. I mean, his brief interview in the documentary was almost sad in a way.
It kind of was a little bit.
He's like, I didn't get craft services, but I did take a lunch break. And it's just like, oh.
Also, I wanted to mention the score. What did you think of the score by Voyager 3?
Loved it. The score is great.
Too. The score sounds, now we're living in a world that is, the synth thing I think has been played out for like 10 years at this point.
Stranger Things killed it for sure.
Oh yeah. But I mean, this sounded so authentic to the time.
I mean, they did, Vinegar Syndrome did a fantastic job. Like the movie feels like a kung fu movie with the overdubbed voices. Like at first I thought the voices were legit to the time period and they had to piece together that, but even the way the way the voices are recorded, the way everything sounds, it sounds so authentic. Yeah. The script even seems legitimate to the time. It's like you wouldn't see a movie nowadays with that kind of script.
That's very true. And I guess we should say before we get into it that Curtis Spieler, the guy who re-edited it, had to kind of, once he laid everything out on his premiere timeline in the order that it happened according to the slates of the footage, nothing made any sense. So he realized he'd have to kind of rewrite a movie out of this footage. But the great thing about it is that it's always played pretty straight. And while it has a lot of funny parts, like they didn't turn this into like a intentional camp item.
Yeah. They knew what it was, but they didn't deliberately exploit that. I'm really curious. I'm sure you are too. And probably anybody else that's seen the movie. Aren't you curious what the real plot is? If it's the same, if it's similar?
I am but I feel like it has to be similar, but you can't really say that without having seen more footage, but I don't know what else it could be.
Yeah. And they had too many cops that were involved in, I don't know. And then they had the kids, like too many kids.
Those kids. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves, Rusty. We open with the classic red text on a black background. It's always a great beginning, even if it's a little played, but I love to see it. And it says, New York City, 1984, crime is at an all-time high. Do you remember, sadly, we're so old that I do remember New York City in 1984. And I do remember being scared fucking shitless of it.
Well, I mean, 1984 was the year Bernie Goetz shot the people on the subway.
For whatever reason, that was like the defining news story of my life.
It really was.
Like that feels like the biggest deal. And like you look back on it and you're like, obviously that was horrible, but it's amazing that it made it into We Didn't Start the Fire.
I mean, that's probably why it was much bigger than it would probably faded out if not for We Didn't Start the Fire.
But at the time, I remember it feeling like the biggest deal. Like I bet that we would remember, but like the average person wouldn't.
I mean, I guess, what am I trying to say?
Well, what do you remember about the city in this period?
I mean, I was definitely fascinated by it because my dad would take us there, but I mean, to hear about it, I mean, it certainly was described as a cesspool and you definitely did not want to go there at night.
Oh yeah.
But I remember I have very clear memories of my dad taking us in there and he would like go to some areas and you would just see the leveled buildings and the burned out cars and like just some really dangerous looking people. And that was pretty common.
I remember it well. I used to roll with a group of feral kids.
See, my dad's being a police officer always went, carrying. So I always felt safe. But as a kid, and you were hearing the stories about it. And of course, we had older siblings that would tell us horror stories that we believed. I do remember one time my dad, this was in Queens though, but he took me somewhere on an errand and he went into a place and left me in the car. And that was the scariest shit because he told me, don't get out of the car no matter what. And I stayed in the car for which it was probably like 10 minutes, but it felt like an hour. And just seeing some real riffraff walking around.
Real riffraff.
That was scary. That was probably 30 something years ago. Wow, actually, probably more than 35 years ago. Yeah. Whew. But I have to admit, I do love seeing 1980s New York City.
Oh, it's the greatest.
Just like when they're walking down, like that scene where they're walking down 42nd Street and you see like, the theaters and everything and just the characters on the street. It's really intriguing. Like makes me wish there was a part of the city that still kind of looked like that. But dude, come to downtown LA. That's my daily existence is walking around 1984 New York City. I guess that explains a lot about my life. I would do that in the Pope Mobile, though. I want to be very secure.
Well, now that it's jacket weather, I can have the pepper spray and my knife. So I'm really armed. But
before you moved to LA, though, and you growing up as a teenager in New York City, now the city wasn't cleaned up in the mid 90s.
Oh, I remember like up through the mid 90s, a few teenage trips going to the city where like sketchy shit happened.
Oh yeah, especially at night going to like concerts and then leaving. That was pretty terrifying.
I remember seeing Hole and Dinosaur Jr. and I feel like we were 15 or 16, and one of our friends got scammed with that broken bottle scam, like where the guy, the guy like bumps into you and drops like sparkling cider or drops a bottle of any kind. And
is it actually an empty bottle though, or is it actually like water in it or something?
I think it's what you bring to it, but and then he's like, that was a bottle of champagne for my wife. Like, you got to give me money. And that scam is like the oldest thing ever. Like, I think that happened to like Shakespeare. I think Robin Hood might have been taken in by this scam. What? But it felt harrowing at the time. I remember two of our friends just ran off ahead and like ditched our friend when he was getting robbed. And I stood next to him, but I did nothing, of course. Yeah, and I wished I could have ran away.
Wait, now the other two, like it's fight or flight. So the other two obviously took off. What were you doing? Yeah. Was your fight instinct kicking in? Or you just...
people get it wrong. It's fight, flight, or freeze. And I froze, baby. Now it would be completely different.
What would have been the repercussions if Nick, our friend, didn't pay? You guys would have been stabbed?
I think the guy just would have like got a little more aggressive and gone on. But like, it was like $10, so might as well pay up.
Did he just have like a suitcase of bottles for the next person, the next poor sap?
It's so weird because I've always wondered about that. Like, I don't know if it's just a really short, it's like you're going to do that and then you're going to go get drugs or something that only costs like $20, but it just doesn't seem like a very practical scam because you always need the bottles.
Well, I mean, I don't know about the city right this second, but back then I'm sure you could find a bottle on the floor anywhere back then.
That's true.
Just fill it up with piss and just walk into your next victim.
Wow,
drop
it with piss.
Well, I mean, if you need a liquid, if you want to go the liquid route,
you've created a villain worthy of the New York Ninja. I guess that is the easiest option. Okay, I'm going to go do it. Where I live feels like New York 1984 anyway, so I might as well go start pulling that scam.
You have to get in like line though. There'd be like so many people trying to pull that scam. Like, what? You got to queue up for this?
We could recycle these. Oh boy. Rusty, the citizens of New York are fed up. The city needs hope. The city needs a hero.
Well, you know what I love about that though? When you see the city, it seems like it's business as usual. It's just for the few actors they have are in peril. But I do like the tone they're setting.
The city seems incredibly dangerous. I'll say that. The city is like living in wherever the city Streets of Rage takes place, wherever the game Streets of Rage takes place.
But there's clearly like people that are just going about their business that's not really sure what's happening. And then the other ones are aware that there's some kind of production taking place because there's guys wearing weird outfits. It's like outside of bodegas.
Wait, that is a whole other quality about this film, which we might as well talk about now.
Very guerrilla
One
style.
Of the best. Yeah. This is such a guerrilla indie film that you constantly see real people reacting very conspicuously to the filming.
Like, I'm almost convinced that some of the actors in this movie were just people walking by and they say, hey, whoa, can you do a scene for us?
Oh, I mean, I think that is incredibly accurate. But when the guys are in crazy costumes and running past normal people, there's also scenes, we'll get to them in a second, but there's scenes where there's like fighting happening and I think people think it's real.
I don't know how you could think that fighting is real.
I thought it was pretty good fighting. The opening shot, Rusty, the World Trade Center.
Beautiful.
And then we tilt down don't walk. I thought that was evocative. And we land on the star of the film, John Liu, who is saying happy birthday to his wife. Or was it his birthday?
I think it's his because he gets the katana sword, right? In the picture.
Oh, okay.
Because she's like, I have a surprise for you later. And then she tells him about being pregnant. Yeah, I mean, come on. If you're having trouble with the first scene.
It's a complex film. She says she's pregnant. He is elated.
Yeah.
And they're going to meet later for the big party. Whether it's her birthday or his birthday, we're not sure. And unfortunately...
oh, God. No, why?
There is a woman who is being kidnapped. And his wife tries to intervene. Now, this one villain, Rusty, he looked about 12. He looked like a 12-year-old Chicago. He actually looked like Kyle Rittenhouse dressed as a Chicago gangster.
What's his name? Freddie Cufflinks?
Every villain in this film had like a weird gimmick, which I kind of enjoy that they went to that much
It's so
effort.
video game, though. They even have names like Freddie Cufflinks, Switchblade, Rat Tail, Plutonium Killer. They're amazing names.
It reminds me of a movie you'd make like as like a teenager where you're like, everyone is like, okay, you're going to be hockey stick. You carry a hockey stick. Okay, you're going to be safety cone. Put that safety cone on your head.
They get to you. They're like, you're going to be the jockstrap guy. And you're like, oh, man, I'm going to be the jockstrap
guy. So John's wife tries to intervene. She gets her throat slit.
What was her plan on that, though? Like, she just comes in. She sees, like, I mean, this is a dangerous New York City. You got to mind your own business. And she's just like, she had no plan. She's just like, hey, you guys stop that. And of course, you
had to do something in that situation.
Oh, so I'm the coward.
Yes, you are. But I mean, I would have done a spinning jump kick. No, introduce myself that way.
How high are you kicking with a spinning jump kick? 2 feet?
Shin level, but the shins are very vulnerable.
Oh, man. But I mean, what a way to murder somebody. Not only do they slash her throat, but they also throw some throwing daggers at her.
How do we feel about throwing knives? I always thought I'd eventually be really into throwing knives when I was a kid.
Me too. Actually, did you ever have one?
No, I always wanted them, but I never got any.
I had a few weapons as a kid, and they were like, I don't want to say knockoff because they weren't knockoff, but they were like the cheap ones you get at the flea market that they would sell to like minors.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a dagger that like was kind of dull, and I had a throwing star, and I could never get either of them to stick into a tree when I threw it at them.
I had so many slingshots. Remember when it was like a wrist rocket? It's like, this thing's really lethal.
They sold those to kids. Like that was like,
oh yeah. I had them. I had two.
I mean, not to date her. I mean, obviously in the 50s, like Dennis the Menace walked around with a slingshot, but for us, they were still sold. Yeah.
This was Dennis the Menace this was the compound bow to the wood bow of Dennis the Menace.
You were equipped with a Nerf boomerang and a slingshot.
This slingshot could kill tons of people.
Do you think you could bring a slingshot to schools now, or is that like considered a weapon?
I don't think I could bring myself to schools now. Remember, we just recently went to our middle school.
Now. Yeah, but
well, that's true. But it was on the weekend, and we went to see our old middle school because you said it looked so different. It looked exactly the same, and it was like covered with cameras and like security measures. I was like, I don't feel good being here.
Yeah, it's true. Do you know, like movies like Never Been Kissed where Drew Barrymore's character goes back to school? Do you think you could what would you need to convince a group of people that you could go back to school and fit in, like to pass as like a 15, 16, 17-year-old?
Well, I think I'd have to go as a teacher's grandpa. I'm here to tell you about Eli Whitney.
I mean, like, do you think like makeup or a wig or anything?
No, I don't think you could do it.
You don't think you could ever pass for a 15, 16-year-old?
Well, maybe if you had like a really intense, like you're like hired Rick Baker every morning, like 8 hours of makeup before middle school.
I mean, at first I'm sure you'd feel really slimy doing it, but then you'd sink into that role. Like, yeah,
I would mostly be feeling all the makeup and prosthetics on me. I'm like the Tin Man or the Wizard of Oz.
Oil can.
I'm like having a heat stroke. Then the title sequence kicks in. We see footage of this guy just doing karate in front of a building. I feel like this footage, the editor was like, I don't know what this is. Because it seems like there's a few times where they would just get John Liu looking at the camera, doing like karate kicks in front of various New York landmarks.
Yeah, it was definitely obviously showcase his skills, but
oh yeah, his kicking skills, they're pretty good. I mean, the fights in this movie are pretty slow, but I found them pretty satisfying.
I feel like it, from like a theatrical standpoint, it's impressive, but from like a everyday like lifestyle thing, I don't think he's really that menacing. He's a small guy. Those kicks don't seem like they pack a lot of power. It's all for show.
He would definitely not survive a fight against a guy with a machine gun. If this guy gets to the last level of Double Dragon, he's fucked.
I don't know. I don't even think the first level he's making it out, though.
I never could even get to that last level. I dreamed of it. The machine gun guy, man. Billy, whatever his name is. No, not Billy. Billy's one of the guys.
I'm going to say Machine Gun Will, but I don't know if that's correct.
But Rusty, so now we're introduced to the reporter characters who they work with John. John is a sound guy for the news.
Yeah,
I frequently would forget this plot point throughout the film.
He's never on duty. That's why he's just roaming the streets doing karate.
So this is kind of a weird scene. There's a helicopter in the background the whole time, bit of production value. And they're basically talking about how they're going to talk to John because they know that his wife has been killed. And they're talking about how they want to be there for him because like he's such a good guy.
Yeah. I mean, compassionate coworkers.
It's like, I don't know if they really needed this scene.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to help the movie out. I don't have anything.
But I thought it was funny that the whole time there's like a helicopter in the background and it's on, and it's like, wow, that must have like been impossible to record the dialogue the first time. And it's like the producer was like, "Oh, I'm going to have a helicopter. It's going to be in every shot."
They had to get their money's worth. They had that helicopter because it's like they shot that with the ending helicopter scene right after that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Now we go to kind of a very kind of funny montage of John being super upset about his dead wife, and but he's looking at a bunch of balloons that all have messages written on them, and it's all messages like "I love you," like all messages about his wife. Now, were these written before or after the murder? Like, did he write on these balloons as part of his coping? It's a very weird prop.
I mean, he definitely has some weird coping mechanisms, but I mean, when he's just around this sad party, I couldn't quite get what theme they were going with for. Was it for a romantic dinner? Was it for a kid's party?
That's the baffling thing. It's like, it seems like he's at a kid's party, but there was no kid. So was this to be his party? That didn't happen?
I feel like it was a party between two people that had no idea who each other was. And yet they were supposed to be husband and wife. Like, who would you ever give a person that you were involved with a framed photo of you and them?
That was a very strange gift because but he opens it and it's like, was he giving that to her or was she giving that to him? Either way, it's weird, but.
So you think they could have been giving each other gifts? Like she was giving him the sword and he was giving her
I don't know whose birthday it is. We need a fact checker. But so this is kind of his big heartbreak meltdown. We've all had meltdowns in history. What is something you've done as part of a heartbreak meltdown?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. Well, I feel like maybe, when you're a teenager, you're a bit emotional. So like sometimes you go through heartbreak even when you weren't even really dating. You were just kind of hanging out with a girl. And then,
you didn't even need to know her. You could just be completely in your head.
Well, of course you build up relationships in your head.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like a relationship is like weeks before you even build up the courage to ask them out. So when you get to that point, you're already going to be hurt if it doesn't go your way. Like, do you remember when our friend had a crush, like a big crush too, on that girl that he worked at a bagel store with, like for a summer?
This is a test if he still listens. I don't think he does.
But it was such a weird crush because, like, it's not like you're interacting with him really. I think it's like seeing somebody from afar.
Oh yeah, because also I think they only work together like once. Like he had started the job and she was like leaving the job. So it was kind of like the tragic, like ships in the night kind of thing.
Oh, did maybe she trained them? Did they? I don't know if they had any interactions though. That's the thing. But
yeah. But anyway, it was a very built up crush. This is very true. And this is probably horrible to admit, but it was suburbia. We used to just drive by her house all the time.
Wait, that sounds super creepy. It's true.
I mean, it is true. I mean, you just
on the way to like Tower Records or something.
Yeah, we had nowhere to go. Like that's all there was. And but one time we were driving by, and it was like perfectly timed. It was just like it almost looked in slow motion. We were driving by, and she was kissing a guy on her stoop, and he had such a meltdown that he was trying to. I mean, not really kill himself, but like he was stabbing himself with a pen.
Yeah. It's like, do you remember the Simpsons episode where like Lisa disses Ralph Wiggum and like Bart rewinds a tape and he's like, you can see the moment where his heart was like broken.
That's like what it was. Yeah.
You could see the moment he was crushed.
And the funny part is I remember distinctly as he was like stabbing himself, I was like, that's right. He should be doing that. This is a tragic moment for him.
Oh my God. The reaction was justified. I vaguely remember though that we were talking about something as he was like just destroyed. Like, we were probably talking about either a movie or a band or something, and like we continued our conversation while he was stabbing himself.
I don't remember that. That's funny too. That's a whole other take on it.
I think it was just like that teenage attitude. Like, how does this affect me? If it doesn't, I don't care. It didn't really affect us. It's like, he's not really going to do it. He's just going to maybe put some marks on his arm. But I think the worst thing I've done, and I'm sure you've done the same thing as me, was I wrote a nasty like letter to someone and mailed it. And of course, the second you put it in the mailbox, you regret it. Like, why did I do that? But it was like, what was I going for? Just to like try to hurt this person, like emotionally, the same way I quote unquote was hurt.
It is a bit like being at a restaurant and being like, this food sucks, but I want to continue eating it, and I'm going to start screaming if you throw me out. It's like, if you think the person's a dick, like, why do you want to date them? Mm-hmm. It is a very pathetic gesture. Which I plan to do at the end of my next relationship.
Imagine doing that now, sending you like I guess you would send a text. It's like, did you ever write letters just for yourself, just to get your thoughts out?
No, I definitely delivered monologues. You know, like Macbeth walking around an empty apartment.
And now I feel that's a very teenage thing. Do you think teenagers still do that? I'm sure they do, right?
I'm sure they do.
Just a modern twist of, I don't know, a TikTok.
I bet guys in their 40s do it.
I see you wrote though in your notes that his sweater is nice in this scene.
It was, tons of white sweaters in this film. Do you know how many white sweaters? Almost everyone in this movie is wearing a white sweater.
Yeah, there's a few things that are prevalent in this movie. We'll get to it, but I just want to say the gun. They use the same goddamn like that snub nose revolver. That
gun disgusts me. I hate that gun.
It really does.
First of all, it looked fake, but also it would not be. It's a lame looking gun.
Yeah, I guess what they're going for is that there's so much violence that you want to have something concealed, easy thing to pull out, carry it in your tight jeans pocket. But anyway, so yeah, John explodes. All that emotion is building up and boiling, hits his boiling point, and he screams and kicks the table.
Yes.
I think the oddest choice is that he picks up the shards of glass from the frame photo.
Oh boy.
And he squeezes them in his hands.
He does a bit of a Wolverine.
He squeezes them away. You squeeze a stress doll or one of those stress balls.
I was thoroughly disgusted by this.
The only thing I felt relief was in the next shot, his hands just looked like he wiped off the blood and there was still like some red stain.
He does this several times in the film to the point where you think that maybe John Liu was like into some kind of hand damage kink. But I'm like, New York Ninja, you're going to need your hands for this mission. So you might want to like stop grinding up glass with your hands.
The DP or something, it was like, John, you can't keep putting these scenes in the movie. We could limit it to 2. He's like, no.
But this
apparently, is I just want to say that it was an odd choice, that wig they put on the reporter.
Mm-hmm.
But like, apparently John Liu insisted in it. I was like, this, she has beautiful, like brown hair. Let her just have her natural hair. And he's just like, no, she has to wear the wig.
It was an incredibly weird and obvious wig.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know how like good wigs are expensive? That wig looked extremely cheap.
It did look extremely cheap.
But I'll tell you what did not look cheap, and that is the roof that they shot this scene on. Like, there's a few shots from the other angle where you're like, oh my God, look at this view.
It's $1 million view.
It is, yeah. And then the reporter sees him and she's like, John, pull it together.
Yeah, it wasn't really words of encouragement at all. Just like, John, stop being a baby. What was his name in the movie? Do we ever know? Or he's just New York
his
Ninja?
Name is John. No, his name is John.
Oh, it is John.
As well.
It is,
yeah.
Okay. I thought they never disclosed his name.
But so at the end of the scene, he finds his swords, and you see that he's going to go on a little quest here.
Is he?
No.
He was still mourning. I mean, for a while.
I spoke too soon. I fucked
he had to
up.
get pushed.
And I love that you called me out on that. Because
I've
been on the bench. I've been on the bench for a little while now. I haven't been podcasting, and thanks for keeping me sharp. He's going to go first. He's got to meet the little kid. But before we get to that little kid, Rusty, we have to meet the villain of this film. Try to explain this guy and who he's interacting with. When Curtis Spieler was editing this film for Vinegar Syndrome, he must have seen this scene and been like, "What the fuck is this movie?" Because, so first of all, a car pulls up to this like waterfront area, and the car, for no reason, the driver is always driving like a maniac.
Yeah.
And one in this car is like our central villain of the film, the plutonium killer. He's got a pen that shoots like little nails, basically pins. And his driver is like a kind of weird swordsman. And then he's meeting a guy who is like a weird, like twee pervert, who is kind of like, it kind of has a QAnon feel because he's like, he wants women, basically. Like he's like a Jeffrey Epstein kind of guy.
He is. And
the plutonium killer is like, hates this Epstein guy, but he's in league with him for some reason that I couldn't quite figure out who was scratching whose back and why.
So you're saying even with the Vinegar Syndrome, like script that you couldn't figure out what they were doing? What kind of?
Well, I didn't really know. I mean, so like this guy, the Epstein guy wanted women, which the plutonium killer was going to get him in exchange for money. But it seemed like the plutonium killer already had a lot of money, or am I confused?
I don't know. You know, I feel like it's when they made this movie, the original was shooting it. I feel like they had a very basic understanding of sex trafficking. Like you just round up women and keep them in like an old building.
Why? How do you do it?
Hey, not falling for that one. No, but I mean, everything's like so like the love. I mean, this is what you're picking up just by the characters' interactions. It just seems very basic understanding.
Oh, I mean, in general, it does feel like a movie written by a kid.
I did write a story, not a little bit similar to this. In 6th grade, I remember I wrote it, and I thought it was genius. It was like kind of like almost like a Streets of Rage novelization. And I handed it in. The teacher wrote back, "Terrible garbage." And I remember I went up to him because I was thinking like the story's good, and then he's just like, "I can't even read this. There's so many fragments and run-ons." I'm just like, "What's that mean?" And he's just like, "You got to do several drafts on this." And I was so mad that he told me that I just scrapped it. But I don't think it made any sense.
I'm just imagining the fragments and the run-on sentences in your Streets of Rage story. It's like, there was a pipe. So he picked up the pipe and he hit the guy. Then he was able to pick up the axe. He used the axe to slash the man.
It was like a James Joyce like stream of consciousness. This one sentence. You know what it is though? Like when you're a kid and you're writing something that you're really passionate about, you're not thinking about. You're just writing. You don't care about any kind of punctuation or anything. Well, can I just jump ahead? I mean, we know eventually we find out this the weird Jeffrey Epstein character is working for Interpol. But how long is this like covert undercover mission that he's doing? It seems like he's been rounding up women for a long time.
But was he like properly working for Interpol, or was he like an informant who's like basically a criminal who's kind of saving his own skin?
You're giving this movie way too much leeway with that. I don't know.
But it didn't seem like he was undercover. It felt like he was just kind of like a snitch guy.
Well, he certainly looked like it. I mean, now this is going to be a bit esoteric, but you know who he looks like? Do you watch a lot of like English like panelist shows? Do you know who Joe Lycett is?
No, I don't remember.
He's been
names so much.
Our British audience will appreciate that one. He looks like that guy. It sounds like him.
So we see a little kid, Rusty. This little kid owes money to a gang of thugs who are awkwardly older than him.
What are they doing menacing like this 12-year-old?
It's like he's a really young kid and they're like, they seem old. I would not feel good. If I was in a gang, I wouldn't feel good about doing that.
Are they like, what could this kid possibly owe them money for? Are they just shaking down kids at this point that they're that?
No, he definitely took a loan from them at some point.
I wonder if they're like having a conversation amongst themselves where they're just like, how do we let things get this out of control? This kid owes us $100,000. He's never going to pay it.
I mean, after you shake down a little kid for money, if you're the leader of this gang, you've got to do something tough to like remind everyone that this is still a legit operation.
How are you recruiting? How are you getting anybody to join that gang? Like, what do we do? Shake down kids.
So they're shaking down this kid.
I mean, this is where John is mourning his wife in the subway, right? In the same spot.
Oh yeah. Wait, I think this is actually after this. I think they kind of menace the little kid, and then we see the newspaper, which has the headline, "Another lady vanishes, abductions continue." Now, do you think that was a Hitchcock reference, or was that just really weird wording for that newspaper prop? Like a newspaper would never write "Another lady vanishes."
I feel like it's gotta be. It's like with The Room where what's his face? Tommy Wiseau like used a line as a tribute to was it Rebel Without a Cause? So I feel like when you pay like homage to like classics, it's like, yeah, I'm a real filmmaker. Like, look what I'm doing here.
Now, this is a series of scenes. This movie has a lot of like repeated scenes, but we see the plutonium killer, pick up the newspaper, look at the headline, and laugh. This is not the first time he'll do this.
Wait, did we actually say what the plutonium man's about? Like, why he has this weird mutant power?
He was trained by the CIA. What was it? Or experimented on? What was his deal?
Experimented on.
and his only weakness.
I watched this movie twice and now I'm dumbfounded. What is it? I know it was some kind of radioactive what was it? Experiment that went wrong, right? And now he can't handle light.
Yeah.
Does he get like now throughout this film he's like playing with the light and that's when it triggers his skin to like kind of melt?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like orgasming for him that it like gets him revved up, or is it like like good pain, like where like a serial killer like
he certainly played it sexually.
Yeah, that actor is so good when he's getting off on the light.
He really commits to this role in a way that is kind of tragic, where you're like, this guy must have been like, where is that film where I took it to 11 in every scene? John, is it going to come out ever?
He's at the rap party like, wait, this performance is amazing.
Now John goes for sorry, go.
You know what we forgot to say though, that it didn't Troma pick this up at one point and it was like, we have nothing to work with.
Troma looked into acquiring it and then thought that it was beneath them.
And that's pretty sad standards.
That is real sad.
Yeah.
Now John goes for a boat ride where he's littering from the back of this boat with the World Trade Center in the background. You don't get that's horrible, John. We hate littering on this show.
How can we support this? How can we get behind this guy?
That's the one moral we've stayed consistent with since 2017. We're against littering. And John does that, even though it is grief littering. So it's a little, I don't know. I might even be grosser, actually. Rusty, so this is now our next scene is one of a series of very familiar scenes where a gang is hanging around, and then like video game NPCs, like they start trouble in a very strange and random way. This is really random because it seems like the gang is shaking down another member of their same gang for money, because then he ends up hanging out with them like right after.
Yeah.
And did you notice that one of the gang members looked like a mummy?
The one fun thing about this movie, or one of the several things that is fun about this movie, is looking at the gang members and trying to process what you're saying, like what they were going for. Yes, I did notice the mummy guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. It's exactly that. Cause like sometimes you'd be like, what is the and then, he's like a skier. Like, oh, that guy's a preppy one.
Did you see the guy that had like weird facial hair glued on his face? He's very prominent in a few scenes. It's just like,
sure.
I felt like the actor was just like, I don't want to be seen. I'm doing this for like the $25 they're paying me, but just glue some hair on my face. I feel like the editors, though, when they probably saw the scene, they had no idea what was originally written down. Like, why was this guy shaking them down? Then he was like part of the gag.
I like it. The guy like takes all their money and laughs, and then they go to like laugh with him, and he's like, "Get the fuck off me!"
Did you feel like the gang members in this movie could have easily been in like Final Fight, Double Dragon, Streets of Rage?
Oh, that's my central thesis that I've said like 5 times. Welcome to the show.
Do you remember when I was thinking of other fighting games like that at that time? Do you remember Two Crude Dudes for Genesis?
Oh yeah, wasn't that made by? Remember that random game that we played that was on the Switch and at Super Nintendo? That was like the brawler that we played.
I forgot what it was.
Like, remember, it was like, "Hey, you, are you tough enough?" It was like a really long title. Tough enough.
Oh my god, yeah, I do remember that now. It was only like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I remember that.
No, I think that was early pandemic.
Yeah, so then as the gang's like, I don't know what they're doing, but John walks into the scene. Now, is he carrying his wife's ashes, or is that just kind of like, what is that he's carrying? Is it like an incense?
I forgot to say earlier that he does rescue the kid earlier, doesn't he?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, not yet.
No, he first witnesses them like shaking him down, but the kid, remember, he like runs off.
Oh yeah. So then John comes. This is John's first like action scene, right?
Yeah. This is
These
what
guys want trouble.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Now this is like a kung fu movie. Did you like these action scenes, or did they get played out towards watching the same scene over and over?
They definitely got played out, but his leg work, as we said, is great. And there's times where he does like a kick and he like totally pivots and then like kicks the other way. And I was loving it.
This initial fight scene, though, I wasn't sold on him yet. I was just like, all right,
no.
None of these people are trained. But
there's also one of the guys, I don't know if you noticed, one of the gang members who gets knocked down. He's like looking for another gang. Like he's keeping his like head up, watching when the last gang member gets knocked out. And then he goes completely cold too. And I'm like, why do you have to wait for that? You could have been knocked out the whole time. This is bad extra work.
I do like how the mummy guy is like dancing, waiting for his turn to get in the rumble.
Oh yeah. I mean,
like
it's always like the stupid cliched observation that like in like a Bruce Lee movie, everyone waits their turn to attack. But in this, it is so egregious.
Yeah. But I do like the faces the characters make. Like, are they getting hit? It's so over the top.
So then John goes to see the cop character, who's kind of another character that runs throughout this film. And John is like, "What are you doing about my wife's murder?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm really busy right now. Just leave me alone."
Worst cop ever.
Also, I love there's a car that violently goes around them. And I'm like, there's no way that's from the production. That's clearly like a citizen who's like, what the fuck is this? Fuck this.
I don't get now. How much time has passed since his wife's murder?
It's just a couple days.
Because the cop says to him, or the detective says, like, these things take time, but isn't it true that usually murders or homicides, like the first 48 hours are the most like crucial to solving a case? So this guy's just letting hours slip by without caring.
But I got to defend the script here. There is a scene later where he reveals that he wanted to tell him more at the time.
I know.
He was actually deeper into the case than anyone knew. But then we cut to a scene where John, it takes kind of a little longer than it needs to for John to become the ninja. But this is where he's reaching his mental breaking point, and he's running back and forth between construction girders, which are kind of just too far away for this beat.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like running away and like flopping into them, screaming, why?
Then he jumps in the air in a freeze frame.
Yes, he does. And then he goes back home, gets his sword out. He's clearly decided to become the ninja, but the first thing he does is cut his own hand. Like I said, John, you will need these hands.
Well, I think he knows he's going to get some blood on his hand, so it's more of a metaphor.
It is. Well, you got to get that sword wet.
It's got to get a taste for what it's about to do. I'm sure if I was a betting person and I was betting on this, I'm sure you dressed up as a ninja, right? Like black sweatpants and black sweatshirt, put it like a hood on.
Last night was crazy.
The only thing now, do you think with this movie, how many takes do you think they do for scenes? Because that scene where he's walking in between the girders, like there had to be people watching from a window somewhere being like, what the hell is going on down there?
I can't stress enough. There is such classic people watching in this. I don't know if you noticed, I have some extras that I note here. We're going to get to some of the great ones. And then Rusty, this subway scene, remember when the subways look like this? I feel like I could smell that.
My parents are always like, never go on the subway. It's the most dangerous part of the city.
You know, I after this scene, I checked for my wallet. It was gone.
This subway scene could have been like what you see like on like a subreddit, like a watch people die kind of thing. It looked like CCTV footage.
CCTV footage,
right?
I don't even know what you mean. I mean, I know what you mean, but I don't know how it applies to this. But I just love the,
you know, like the one thing that threw me off, that took me out of the reality of it, is that there was like a cowboy gang member with a painted face. Now, I've been to the city a lot growing up and as a teenager, and I saw a lot of different characters. I've never seen anyone quite like that.
Oh, remember when like they showed the Statue of Liberty and it was being worked on?
Yeah, I remember
in our
that.
childhood. Yeah, it was like the scaffolding on the Statue of Liberty for so long.
Do you remember they fucked it up too, and they had to like spend more money to like fix the other contractors' work?
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
they like were supposed to get it back to like the original copper color, I think, right?
That's my dream. Make the Statue of Liberty brown again. People love saying that Grecian statues were painted.
Yes. The faces are all painted and everything. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Man, if you went back in time, man, your head would have exploded.
Why?
You would have died of disease. Well, if you saw all the Grecian statues painted.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant that I'd get like smallpox or something.
Oh, you'd be dead pretty quickly. And you wouldn't understand what people were saying.
Not with... they just need to understand my Uzi.
Well, I think they say you could only go back, because language, and even in, I think the early 1900s was so different.
Oh, I can get by.
Well, slang was there.
With George Washington. I can get through that.
It'd be like, who's this fucking guy showing up? Like, hey, I'm here. You bring nothing to the table. You go back in time.
I don't know why I think about this, but like I always imagine trying to explain your phone to someone from the past without like them thinking that you're a witch.
Well, the thing is, if like you showed, first of all, you would have no connection to any Wi-Fi or anything, but you wouldn't even know how to explain it. You would just have a thing that it was a phone.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, it's like first of all, like electricity is involved. And they were like, what's electricity? I'm like, no clue. Rusty, in a very familiar scene, I got to give a trigger warning for this, the content of this film. It's mostly gangs trying to assault women, and then New York Ninja showing up and taking just too long to enter the action.
He's just as disgusting as them. He's like, what? Getting his rocks off.
It's real. It does put in a lot of unintentional tension in the film because it's like, woman's getting assaulted. It cuts to New York Ninja. You're like, oh, good, New York Ninja's here. But then he poses for like a long time, and it keeps cutting back and forth. And you're like, New York Ninja, please get involved.
I mean, I just want to say, how is the New York Ninja always in the right place at the right time?
I don't actually have an answer for that.
But don't you think it's remarkable that he shows up even for like the most trivial crimes?
Oh yeah, but so does Spider-Man.
Do you think would you like to see a crossover Spider-Man versus New York Ninja?
Yes. Considering the fact that I think you might have a chance against New York Ninja, I would love to see Spider-Man fight him.
But this is also where we get a glimpse of the guys in the jock straps. Two of them are wearing jock straps. So did one of them not get the memo? It's like, we can't have two jock strap guys in this gang.
There's also a lot of those plastic clown masks that kind of became later, I think, in horror films. A bit ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Although I guess they'd use it in like Alice, Sweet Alice and stuff like that, maybe.
I don't know. You're a poser, though.
I am. I am a poser. I'm such a poser, man. I don't even try to pretend anymore.
I know. I already know your answer. I don't even know if I should phrase this as a question, but how disgusting are jock straps / cod pieces? Like, just seeing them.
Actually, I love them. I eat all my meals off of them.
Off of them or out of them?
Out of. I'm saying, what is this? Now we have a philosophical. I don't know. Both.
Well, you think you'd use a cup like a cup? Why would you put it on?
Oh yeah. No. I use them as dishes.
Like, do you remember? Of course, you remember Clockwork Orange, but I like the whole like what were they called? Droogs look, but the cod piece is just such a turd off.
I've never loved that look.
I mean, so you wouldn't wear that in everyday life? Dress up like a droog?
Let's see how 2022 goes.
And it could be close. Could be that year.
And now this scene is amazing because a woman is robbed and these guys run up to her and like grab her bag and she's like, no, my bag. And the camera is a little bit far away from this action. And you can see all the people on the street really believe a woman has just been robbed. Like there's a guy who runs into a store and runs out and is like pointing like the guy's going that way. And then the ninja comes by on roller skates and you see all these people like, look at this guy. Like, what the fuck? And it's just like, I was thinking the funniest thing about this is there must have been all these people who saw this take place, who saw a camera and put together that it was a movie. And then for years were like, no, there's a ninja on roller skates. And then because this was a lost film, they could never figure it out. They probably died like checking IMDb for like 20 years being like, I know I saw this. I know I saw this being filmed.
It's like the Rosebud on their deathbed, like ninja roller skates. I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, these people that were witnessing probably went home and told their family. Like, I was taking a break from work and there was a robbery, a mugging, and then somebody on roller skates in a ninja outfit came by.
There's a guy who's carrying milk to his car and he like stops and then he's like staring at like the ninja fighting these guys on roller skates and he looks so perplexed. I was like, this is insane. The roller skate fight also is another, like, this really feels like a Sega Genesis game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the ninja was thinking in this scene.
But so there's a weird emphasis on voyeurism in this movie. Like, this is such a weird comparison, but remember, Rusty, we used to watch porn on VHS back in the late 90s. I feel like used to. No, I mean, don't watch it on VHS anymore. But I feel like there used to be a character where it would be like the pool guy who's just watching everything happening and being like, oh my, I can't believe this. And I was always like, we don't need that character. Like, I don't need to identify with someone. But it's almost like this movie does the same thing where the reporters will be on the scene almost and all these, like, it'll just cut to other people being like, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Like the tourist, like the wife's just like, you got to see this. He's like, I'm filming it, honey. You're like, yeah.
Oh, those were the people that you said. Those must have been random. Those felt like real people.
I thought for sure the women got mugged, or the woman that got mugged in the scene. Like, I felt like they just saw her coming out of a store and be like, wait, can you just do this for us quick? But it's really funny because you see the women walking by as the scene opens, and you see the muggers in the background, and it's so bizarre just to see guys in like those plastic clown masks.
Oh yeah,
just like waiting.
I love the scene later in the film where it's walking through like Times Square, and it's like the gang just like walking tough. There's one guy who's like in a full Japanese kendo like fencing uniform with like the mask and everything, and like you just see people walk by and like look at them like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, part of it is probably New York City. Like, you do expect to see that, like, kind of when you go to Coney Island, just to see like the weird people.
I mean, that was it's just such a motley crew. It was like the worst version of like the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. There's definitely like out of towners there. There's like, New York really is like that.
So he fights these guys, and the last guy he leaves alive, and he says, "Tell the others I'm coming for them." A bit like the Batman 1989. Mm-hmm. I think that might have ripped this off, where he's like, "Tell the others."
They didn't know it existed. So Tim Burton is there on the streets, like, wait, I got to take that line, even though that might not even be the line.
Like, but how did that conversation go? Where the guy was like, "Hey, man, like everybody's dead, and this ninja did it." The ninja said, like, to tell you guys. This is him, by the way, saying this, not me.
Who's he telling? I mean, who is the leader of all these gangs? Are they different factions of gangs? Because it seems like they're all kind of in cahoots in some way.
This was one of those classic movies that has a bit of tension between the villains, and you're like, you didn't need this tension because this is confusing. You're like, is the gang working with the plutonium killer? Are they like begrudgingly working with him? Like the ecosystem of the villains here had a bit of like a Saturday morning cartoon vibe, where it's like Destro's always trying to take over from Cobra Commander, but you're like, we can't sustain all this plot.
I feel like they really gave the extras in this as the gang members, like the direction of like, your wild dogs are like just like out of control predators, like, because they're even like hitting themselves, like fighting themselves when they have like a fresh meat kind of thing. I mean, do you think any of them were trained in martial arts? Because some of them take falls pretty well.
Yeah, some of them had to have been like kind of stunt guys.
What about the guy that's the chauffeur, the rat tail guy? Like, he has like a weird fencing style and like the drunken sword style.
Oh,
do you think
he put me into a portal where I was trying to figure out if like that drunken style is real or just completely fictional. But there actually was a boxer who fought like that, and crazy footage.
Really? Which?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember his name, but if you look up boxer drunken style, you'll find this guy. Like the main video of him had like 10 million views or something.
Well, my thing is, what if we both pull out that style? What if we're fighting? We both show up and we're both doing drunken boxing.
Oh my God. The fight would last 5 hours.
Did you ever see the Blindfold Boxing?
No.
Oh my God. That's terrifying.
Tell me more about it. I'm intrigued.
I have an ultimate challenge for you.
Okay, good.
You get in the ring. Mike Tyson is blindfolded. You're not. Oh. Do you take that challenge? Okay.
I mean, how long am I in the ring for?
12 rounds.
12? Get the fuck out of here. 12 rounds. That's insane. I thought you were going to say 1 round.
3 rounds. 3 2-minute rounds.
No, so get the fuck out of here. 1 round is the most you can ask someone, and I will do it, though.
He's blindfolded.
The ring's not that big. I don't know.
How big of a purse do you need to do that?
For 1 round?
Yeah, like $1 million?
Like, no.
Yeah, I mean, you could suffer. You might suffer such severe brain damage that
I don't think I'm going to get brain damage. I think I'll do it for like $300,000.
I thought you were going to say $300. What is there strategy to run, or is there strategy to actually try to get a cheap shot in here and there?
Well, I mean, I'm going to work with trainers for a couple of months before this bout, and I'm going to go with their advice. But I think I can get on my hands and knees and just kind of try to keep evading him and like don't breathe. This is going to be a Marco Polo.
So your trainers is to teach you how to hold your breath for like 2 minutes. Did you ever hear the story where Mike Tyson like wanted to fight a gorilla?
No,
I swear. And I think he paid like a zookeeper. Like he offered him like $10,000 to let him in the cage with a gorilla. And the zookeeper was completely baffled by it.
The zookeeper was baffled. Man, this is like a long day for me.
Mike Tyson was obviously one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time, but I don't know. You think he could take a gorilla?
No, of course not.
No. The gorilla would just rip him apart.
Oh, yeah?
I don't even think you could take one of those like junior gorillas. Those the little ones.
What, like a lemur?
No, like a gorilla, but like the ones that are like not babies, but they're like the teenager ones.
Oh, yeah, no, I would never no gorilla of any kind. I don't want it. I'm not doing that.
What if it was blindfolded?
No, because all their senses. Okay, let's move on here.
All right,
Rusty. So then we see back to this recurring scene. We see Plutonium Killer. He sees a newspaper. It says "Ninja saves tourist couple," and he's like, "Oh," he's like, "So interesting." Yeah. But the way he delivers it, you're like, "Are you being sarcastic or are you being?"
I love that he gets more and more broken down by the headlines. Like by the end, he's like losing his shit by it. You know, did you hear some of the dialogue that they wrote for the gang members when they're walking down 42nd Street?
No, I did not.
It's very poetic. The one guy's talking about some kind of intimate encounter he had. He's like, it's something like kids would say at a playground. He's like, she kissed me down there. And he's like, yo, this chick is totally rad, man. He's like, pissed off and everything. But just like, have you ever said to anyone, like, buddy, where you hooked up with a girl and he was like, her panties were off and everything? It's like, that seems so outrageous. Good writing on their part.
The gang's in like the Broadway area, and then they attack two women in a Datsun. Oh
my goodness! You must have loved this scene. You probably lost
I did. My first car. Yeah, I was losing my shit. Also, do you notice that the guy in the kendo outfit, he makes an acting choice to have a pronounced limp, which really is something that, like, another thing I feel like we would do, like in a high school movie, where it's like, oh, I'm going to do a big limp. It's such a weird choice, especially since he's supposed to be like a gang member.
I mean, maybe he's really selling the character, like he has some history to him, that he's been in so many fights.
Oh, that's a good point. That's great. I should give him more.
I mean, I don't think any actor in this movie would have thought of that for a background on their character.
So then, classic New York Ninja takes a little too long to show up. Bit of a battle, and this is Russ. He really shows off those foot skills. Did I ever tell you that I once went to like a free kendo class, like the Japanese fencing thing? Me, Justin, and our friend Shosh. For some reason, our friend Shosh was like, we should go to this kendo class, like on the west side of LA. And seeing that class, I was just like, I can never do this. This looks horrible. And
that's what Steven Seagal does, right?
No, he does Aikido. I can't believe
Aikido, that's what it is.
Kendo is like with the wooden swords and like the big fencing masks and stuff.
Oh, okay. I was thinking when you said swords, I was thinking real swords. I know what you're talking about now. Okay.
But it kind of had all that ceremony of like kind of karate schools, where it's like people are bowing towards some thing,
and that's where they lost you. You're like, I'm not bowing to anyone.
No, just like I feel ridiculous. Any kind of ceremony like this, I can't be a part of that.
Do you have to wear any kind of attire when you went for your free class?
No. They gave you like the form to buy the whole outfit, but they're like, bring back this form with like a check for like $400 if you want the whole fucking outfit.
That outfit is pretty cool, though. I mean, if you had it,
is pretty cool. It seems like it would be a cool thing to be good at if you could instantly be good at it and into it. But I don't know. That's of all the martial arts in the world, that's not my choice.
See, at least you could have had a Halloween costume out of it, so it wouldn't have been a complete waste of money.
Oh, see, but I know the dirty feeling of recycling Halloween costumes year after year.
I've done that before. I think when you get older.
Rusty, the final guy, New York Ninja, it seems like he's like won this battle, but the final guy attacks him with, what do you call that? Like piano wire Garrett? I'm not sure how to say it. Garrett? I've always hated those. I hate that as a weapon.
To me, you buy that, or you just make it yourself?
I think you got to be in the know as to like what's a good wire to use. You're like, oh, like a bass guitar string. I got to use that E or whatever it is. But I always have hated that, Rusty. To me, strangling is a way too intimate way to kill someone. Like I can't even hug people. I'm not gonna.
That's true. I don't even think you like handshakes.
It would not be my weapon of choice if I was a serial killer.
I mean, in this movie, what would be your weapon of choice if you were one of these members? Like, what would you go with?
I would have to get.
Actually, what would your outfit be?
I would have to. I would have to get my arm replaced and have a gun installed, and then I'd probably wear like a pink leopard skin jumpsuit.
Jumper or jumpsuit? I would probably wear like the hat that the character Dusty wears in G.I. Joe with like the neck flaps. I'd probably wear something like that.
Then we cut to the Temple of Doom, Rusty. This place looks like a 80s like metal video. This is where they're keeping all the women.
Yeah. Maybe imagine like fucking John Lewis is so like he's so stupid that he read everything wrong, that it wasn't a sex trafficking ring. They were just recruiting women for a music video. Like they're auditioning them. It's like, these are the women I want for my next production. This is some kind of like Bob Fosse production that they're doing in this.
They were all kind of tied down in different kind of like aesthetic ways, you know, where it was like, tie her to that wheel over there. Tie her to that stained glass window.
Yeah.
That'll brighten up this place.
But they're all wearing kind of dancey outfits. I don't know. They're wearing like the unitard, like.
But Rusty, you must have. Like, oh yeah, it seems like they made them all change to workout gear on the way in.
Yeah. Oh, you're about to say I must have what?
You must have loved this next scene where the gang comes down the street and they just Street Fighter 2 this car.
We all wanted to do that in our life at some point. These guys were living the dream. I love the fact that the reporters didn't realize it was his car. He was in such awe of what was happening.
You know, we've used the term gas leak, not gas leak, gas leak a lot, but this was definitely a gas leak scene, because it was like the reporters come up, they see that the gang is like breaking this car, and like the timing of everything is just so strange, where it's like, oh no, look what they're doing to that car. And the guy's like, wait, isn't that your car? It's like, oh jeez.
But then he's like, there's, like you said, it's very voyeuristic, and like the gang's unaware of their surroundings. Like there's moments where he's like fleeing from them, and he still like takes a minute to record.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's this, like, they're either very inept, or they're just slow, or they're just actually like relishing that they're being filmed. Like, yeah, look at us. Like the journalists are paying attention to us.
So these guys are so focused on damaging the car, they don't even see the reporter until he comes blundering into the scene. He's like, "That's my car." It's just like, it's like when someone rushes into like a fight scene, just like completely exposed. Like I was like, what was his plan? Just run in to get beat up?
Yeah, I don't understand. The movie sets up. The movie starts off by telling us how dangerous the city is, and like the people are in peril, and that like it's not safe to go out. And meanwhile, like you said, this guy's just blundering around, like, "Hey, what's going on here? That's my car." Like, wouldn't you just like immediately phone the police or get out of there?
This begins a kind of long sequence where the reporters are in pursuit, or being chased by this gang, and I love the moment where the woman opens a random door, and out comes a gang member who is already like it was just like a video game. Like he already is in the fight. Like, yeah, he was waiting to be released from that door.
It's like Pit Fighter when you get too close to the crowd, he pops out back into the action. Yeah, I love the way she's like antagonize him too. Like she's just like, "Get your hands off of me!" Like, leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah,
as she's making her way down the street. How comical though when the reporter guy Jack's fleeing, and he like tips over the garbage can, and like everybody falls over it.
Oh yeah, and that was also one of those moments that was very profile-y, so it felt like a video game. But then the New York Ninja arrives. This is kind of a sprawling, long battle, Rusty. A lot of interesting gang members show up, like Freddie Mercury, and you mentioned Bob Fosse, another guy who looks like him. There's some very unlikely gang members.
I saw you wrote Bob Fosse, and I was looking for him, and then I saw like the close-up of him. I was like, oh shit, that looks just like him.
But Rusty, this movie loves when people put guns to people's heads and say, "Drop it, asshole." That like becomes the theme of the rest of this film.
Yeah.
At least once in every scene, if aliens watch this film, they would think guns only work from 3 inches away.
Never use though, never fire.
Never. It's always like they put the gun to New York Ninja's head, and it's like, oh, how will we get out of this? And then he kind of just like runs away. Like, oh, he got out of
I
there.
mean, the weirdest thing is this is the guy with the sun tanning goggles, and he like says, "Drop it, asshole!" And then they're like, "All right, now bring him over there. Let's put him by the ledge. Let's set him up, and let's all go one-on-one with this guy. See what happens." Just like it's kind of like the thing like in Austin Powers where what's his name? Seth Green's just like, we have him here. Let's just shoot him. It's like, no, we have to put him in like the Shark Tank with the lasers and all that stuff.
It's a very low budget version of that. It's like, we've got him. Let's kill him. But first, we got to do it 10 feet to the left. So after this, New York Ninja gets away, and the reporter, now recovered from his car being destroyed, is like, I got it all on tape. So he goes and he finds his boss who's sitting in a car, and he says, I got the footage. The boss says, I got something better. And then he has a throwing star that has New York Ninja written on it. A bit of merchandising that New York Ninja is doing for himself. But also, would that really be better? Like some physical relic of a fight or footage of the fight? But it doesn't really seem like journalistic ethics to merchandise the New York Ninja. But that's what this guy's going to do. He's going to start selling New York Ninja shirts.
But I feel like this film's a bit meta, though, like that they were actually going to do this, right?
Oh, yeah. And release that kind of merchandise. I mean, I want a shirt like that.
I would wear. I was thinking that you would love that shirt. I could picture you showing up in New York wearing that shirt.
Imagine how surreal it would be if you wore that shirt and then like a gang from the film was like, oh, look at the New York Ninja. And you're like, if I do ninja stuff, will it work? Am I losing my mind?
You're going to see me tied up with the chains with the New York Ninja shirt on. That would be funny. I see two guys in jock straps approaching, like, uh-oh.
Rusty, now we're back to the little kid. This is the subplot that time forgot.
Yeah.
He still owes the money. The guys are back to collect, but this time New York Ninja is here.
See, you said he has like a superhero quality. Like he kind of just has that instinct of what's going on. Like this just seems so random that he's just in the right place at the right time for this one.
Well, a lot of random things happen here, Rusty, because he tries to somersault away from a gun and he gets shot. And then it really appears like the little kid gets shot too. Like, I don't really know what was supposed to happen there because the little kid is running and the guy shoots the gun and the little kid collapses looking like he's dead on top of New York Ninja. Mm. And I love that they added a voice of someone who goes, he got them. Mm-hmm. And they leave thinking that people are dead. But New York Ninja, he gets up, he kind of removes his ninja outfit a little bit, and we see that he's been shot in the heart.
Maybe he's like the Wraith. Maybe he's like already dead.
That's true. He died out after he made those Wolverine claws out of that shattered glass.
Yeah. I mean, he removes the bullet himself, which is remarkable. And the fact that the bullet's like a brand new bullet that was never fired.
Oh yeah, that's very much that very much so. And then the little kid, he is like, just keep sleeping. You're going to be fine. Sleep off that gunshot wound.
The kid, this scene's very uncomfortable.
This scene is awful because the kid is like, asks him if he's the ninja, and he says yes, basically. And then he goes, "Will you be my friend?"
Yeah,
and
this scene plays out more comfortable than that photo that's been appearing with Jeffrey Epstein with a sleeping kid on his lap.
I haven't seen that photo, but
oh my god, it might be one of the most disturbing things I've seen. It just especially as a parent, it's so uncomfortable.
Oh boy.
But yeah, this scene definitely has that feel. I felt gross watching him interact with this kid in a very homoerotic way. That's a lot for a kid to put on this guy. Does a kid know he's the ninja? He does, right?
He does, yeah. And then he gives him the necklace, and I was reeling. Their relationship was moving way too fast.
I give this kid a lot of credit, though. He never gives away his identity. Little kid holding that onto that secret. There's no way.
Then we have a several weeks later title, which must have been, they must have really debated about what to do there. But because it does seem like some time has passed, the kid is fishing, and the New York Ninja, he prefers spear fishing. Now,
this seems even more uncomfortable. Jeez.
I am assuming that this is really how people do spear fishing, I guess. But like, he looked really dumb doing this.
You didn't think it looked cool?
It did not look cool at all, because maybe this is how it's done. I mean, I'm sure it is, but he used it was like he had like a bundle of spears rather than just like one spear.
Yeah.
And he had like a handful of like pointy things, but then he'd put his face in the water, it just didn't look like very tough.
So this is the problem you have with the movie. You want a more tough looking spearfishing.
When I've seen spearfishing in movies before, it's like you got one spear, you're kind of standing there, you're not bent over awkwardly like this guy, but it seems so specific. It's like, that must be really how people do it.
I want to see your Letterboxd review. 4.5 stars. Would have given it 5 if the spearfishing looked more tough.
And the people would have loved that.
Now, what about his very lean body? Like, was he trying to show off that, like, as a guy?
The actress who played the reporter they have in the documentary, and she mentions how he looks like a little boy here. Not one bit of body fat.
No. But I wouldn't say that's like an ideal form. That's not something you're going for.
No, definitely not. Lately, I'm in a complete death spiral.
Now, I know you don't really give a shit about anything. Like, you peed your pants.
Yeah, I'll do it again as well.
Would you wear that red Speedo anywhere?
No, I mean, I would. I mean, I got to lose 10 pounds.
Would you go to the Venture Park zip lining in that if you could?
Only if I had like a camera on me, so I could at least get viral content out of all those Long Island people assaulting me for being different. I got to get something out of this. I'm going to risk my life like that.
So
now we have one of the greatest scenes that happens now, Rusty.
Yeah, this is truly remarkable. I do love that they filmed this back in '84.
This is a Halloween night, I think. And it's just a lot of real people who have no idea that they're in New York Ninja. Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of little kids in costumes and everything. And then you see New York Ninja and the little boy who, have you ever seen the movie Medium Cool? It's like the last 15 minutes or so or like take place at the 1968 Democratic Convention where there was like a police riot that, and they worked it into the plot. This is like the Medium Cool section of the film New York Ninja, which features, did you notice, I believe, Beastman. I think I saw a kid in a Beastman costume.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Oh, I spied that right away.
And that was like one of those like horrible, Don Post, is that his name? The mask, the plastic, like the masks that hurt your face as a kid with like the weird chemical smell
in the vinyl
aprons. Like, you wear.
Yeah. But the really cool thing about this is because like nowadays everybody has a camera on their phone, but like then like camcorders and handhelds were expensive. So to see somebody like recording this must have been pretty like interesting. And
it really feels gritty because it's like they don't have enough lighting, so it's like really dark. But
still works.
Yeah. So here, the plutonium killer takes a girl to his car. He uses his powers of hypnotism. But we have a little interaction between New York Ninja and the plutonium killer, not realizing that they are the hero and villain of the film.
Yeah, it's like almost like Seven. Like in Seven when Kevin Spacey, John Doe's character, approaches Detective Mills, and he later finds out he's like, he was right in front of us. We had him. It definitely has that vibe. But the weird thing is, John Liu and the kid, are they dating at this point in the scene? Several weeks later, happily dating.
Oh boy! So Rusty, the plutonium killer, we have kind of what is I ultimately realized was a sex scene, but it's kind of weird because it's like she's having sex with him, but their position was really strange.
Well, it's in a car. There's not many options, but that was his real life girlfriend.
I did not know that. How'd you find that out? That was not in any of the supplemental materials.
I paid attention to the documentary.
Oh wow!
I think the actress that played Randy Rydell, I can't think of her name, but she said like that he brought his girlfriend in for that scene.
Well, that's good.
Because she said it was like tastefully done or whatever. So they
have sex and he starts like melting and he he does that. I don't know how to pronounce it. He does the piano wire kill.
Now, the thing though that's awesome is that now their effects budget was like under $100, and his skin melting looked just as good as in like the poltergeist scene in the bathroom.
Okay, there you go too far. I just watched Poltergeist again. It's better than that.
Yeah, but for $100, if you gave these guys more money, they would have achieved the same.
They did seem like watching Blood Rage, like the early work of Ed French, or what's the guy's name from Leprechaun, and he's kind of like the Gabe Bartalos.
Yeah, Gabe Bartalos. Wow,
the people who did this, I know. Wow, these are blasts from the past. Steve Neal. But this was not the worst effect stuff we've seen. Like, it seemed like these people probably were decently talented. But
I think in the documentary, they were saying that they were like, some of them went on to other bigger things, right?
Yeah,
I
think so. So the next morning, Rusty, this is weird because the weird gang that he seems to be working with, they don't seem to know him now, and they try to rob him and the dead girl.
Well, nobody knows who he is, remember? So it makes sense.
That's true. So, but then his chauffeur, Rat Tail,
I love it.
He comes out to fight these guys. And did you notice that one of these guys has a wiffle ball bat?
But it's taped up, so it's got a little bit more.
That was the ultimate weapon when we were kids. We're like, dude, he taped up his wiffle ball bat. It's like, he means business.
Do you remember, like, you would play with people, like older kids, and they would have the tape bat, but they would also tape up the ball? At that point, why not just play regular baseball? You got a tape bat and a tape ball. Like, it's for like that home run power.
I think we've said this probably on the show before, but remember, like, when you would play baseball with a tennis ball and like an aluminum bat, and like it would go so far, you'd be like, am I like super strong? So, Rusty, we have a little bit of the intrigue with the villains here where, Plutonium Killer and Evil Epstein meet. The gangsters are kind of unhappy with their lot in life too. And now we see the cop. There's a cast of thousands. I like how the cop is just sitting there working out the case to himself, where he's like, there's got to be a suspect. Who could the suspect be? Who had a motive? We're like, is this how police work works?
But then doesn't he blame the ninja?
Well, it's weird because
it's got to be the ninja.
I think he knows the ninja is on the side of good, but I think he thinks he's kind of like a menace who gets in the way. Because then Janet shows up. She's the other police officer. A lot of characters, like I said, and she's wearing a New York Ninja shirt, and he's disappointed in this.
Man. I didn't get this character, the second like detective.
Yeah,
there had to be some footage that just didn't make sense with her, or they couldn't do anything with, because her character doesn't make any sense. It's not needed for the story. Although
I did think she had later when she's like saved from bondage and she's just smiling. It's just like,
but it wasn't like they even used her karate skills. Like when she's fighting with the guy, it's like so poor.
No, that is really bad. That is like when you went to like a karate dojo for like a birthday party, and it was like, okay, we're gonna teach you reverse punch, ha ha, and it was like 1 second before shooting, they were like, okay, punch like this.
Did you find it comical when the reporters are interviewing the mayor and the kids are like watching?
Yeah, who was the mayor? I was like, was this guy like a real politician? Like, he definitely had a weird energy.
He did have a weird energy, but he got laid out. I don't think a real politician would have done that.
But yeah, because the gang shows up and they're like, no one move. And it seems like the gang is going to like take over right now. But a bunch of kids see this happening, Rusty.
Yeah.
And I think we're about to have a big kid power moment.
Mm. Well,
how inspiring was what happened here?
I don't know. I don't remember it that well. So
this is the scene where what's it called? This is a scene where like everyone seems screwed, and then the kids all come like running in, and it's like some of them are dressed like ninjas, and other kids have like Mets jackets on, and they all look very 1984, and they start like attacking the thugs. And then after they beat them, they all hug each other, and everyone like jumps up and down.
I just remember John Liu's face in this scene. It's very funny.
Go on.
He's just like this. I don't know. He's a stupid face, but he's just like, look at it. He's like, all right, like kind of like a Van Damme kind of weird goofy face that he would make.
Plutonium guy. I mean, so Rusty. Then we got to Plutonium guy, who has a candle. It's hard to describe, but he's got a candle like on the arm of his like recliner. It's very disturbing looking. And this guy is just having a complete meltdown. Like we said, this actor took it to the next level in every scene. Got to give him a lot of credit.
And every time he was on screen and he's like, you could see that he was like, his skin was a little flaking already. Like it was the same scene over, but I loved it each time. I was like, I can't get enough of this guy. Like just when his mouth opened and his eyes are starting to bug out.
I feel like this actor knew the actor from Doom Asylum.
Oh,
they were
I haven't heard that character in a while. Do you remember that movie?
No, I don't remember anything in my life. I was on a train. The New York Ninja. the gang is outside of Radio City Music Hall, and the New York Ninja in his non-ninja outfit sees them, and he sees that one of them has his cufflink that his wife had given him or was a present or something. But he gets so close to the cufflink, like he puts it like 1 inch away from his eyes. It's just a very awkward way to do it.
He drops his newspaper and like bends forward enough to where his eye is like touching the cufflink. And these are gang members. These gang members have been like wilding this entire film, and they've just been attacking people for nothing. Yet they let this slide. Hey, let's follow them.
Oh yeah, they are like, let's follow him.
Well, they knew who he was. They're like, is that the guy from the park?
And the music. There's a part in the park. Didn't this music sound like the Clockwork Orange score in a weird way?
It really did. It was like heavy on like the synth pads, but it really had that feel of Clockwork Orange. They go into
the park, and the New York Ninja is actually up in a tree. We see. And then the reporter, who's also following all of this, they grab her, and I like how Freddie Cufflinks is like switchblade, and the other guy takes out like a switchblade.
Yeah, well, that's his name. But I like that they're like waiting for someone. She's just like, a friend, I suppose. It's just like, what direction was she going with for?
But the ninja comes down. This is exactly the same fight we've seen a million times, which ends exactly the same way, where someone puts a gun to the head and says, "Don't fucking move."
Asshole. I hate the way they pull the gun too.
Oh yeah. I just hate the gun. I don't know why. It's just like
I hate the gun too. I never wanted that as a kid. Like where they would sell the play ones like that. I never liked this.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a revolver, you gotta have a revolver. You can't have the snub nose.
No, exactly. Ugly looking thing. If I want a revolver, it's going to be like a 357 with a scope. Like
I think that. Remember when we watched talked about that Different Strokes episode where Willis gets the gun?
Oh yeah, that was. Also
Isn't that like the same gun?
Yeah.
That was such a thing. Like whenever a character got a gun in like a sitcom, it's always like that kind of gun.
Yeah, that kind of gun sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, how much damage could that gun do? Like, what is it? 22?
It's probably a 38. I mean, I think that's
really
like the iconic snub nose revolver is like a 38.
Oh, okay.
So like a Saturday night special.
So for a gun that looks like that, it has some stopping power, is what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't trust that. I take my Desert Eagle everywhere I go. If I'm going to Yogurtland, I'm bringing a Desert Eagle. So, we cut to the HQ again. Mm-hmm. There's a guy who has an eye patch and a whip.
I love this guy. He's
definitely like, we can't stress enough. Everyone's looks are so diverse. There's a guy in an Irish sweater who has like a gambling visor.
Yeah. It's like Warriors like on ecstasy. It's just like,
oh, it really is. It does have a very Warriors feel. Actually, it's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Remember that Xbox game? I remember just that month period. I thought that was like a great game.
I mean, it had the likeness of all the characters.
Man, the violence, like when you smash a guy with a brick, that's all I ever wanted out of a game.
I was watching randomly on Netflix recently, what was it called? The Net with Sandra Bullock. Mm-hmm. Did you ever see that movie? It's from 94, I think, when internet
I'm very aware. Yeah, I'm very aware of it, but I actually don't think I've ever seen it.
At the beginning, because she's like a computer hacker, so they're like trying to showcase how like sophisticated and advanced the internet is, even though it was
like you could order a pizza, right?
Yeah. So yeah. But at one thing she's playing either Wolfenstein or Doom. I don't remember which one it was. And the guy that she's like playing with is just like, see all that gore? This is as bad as it's going to get him. It's like, wow, to be that naive then.
Where are we in this film, Rusty? The cop and the ninja, they meet. They're like, the guy's like, the New York Ninja's like, I want these guys dead. You want them alive. Now we have another payphone call. But all of these scenes are like kind of the same, except like they repeat and like a little bit different thing happens.
It's remarkable that there's such a cohesive storyline with such a little like exposition. It really, you get it. You get everything going on.
Because now we have another scene where the gang calls Plutonium Guy from a payphone. And there's so much chaos between these bad guys. New York Ninja should just go for a vacation and come back. Everyone will have killed each other off.
That's why they had the sequel to where he goes to LA. He takes a break, comes back.
Now, okay, so let's jump ahead for a second to that. It ends with New York Ninja will return in LA Ninja. Was that like a Vinegar Syndrome reference to like movies that would do that, or was that actually in the footage, do you think?
Ooh.
Well, I don't think it was in the footage because I doubt they put a title on anything. But like I wonder if that was their intention or if that's just a Vinegar Syndrome invention.
Wow, that's interesting because I didn't even think of that. I just thought it was like that was found footage. Huh.
Yeah. No,
If that was all Vinegar Syndrome, that's really cool that they did that. That's kind of like really stylized as the time. Oh, interesting. I didn't even think of that.
So the ninja drops in. So wait. I got ahead of myself here. So now we have another confrontation, I think, between the gang and Plutonium Killer, but now it's like in person. And there's like a fight with like the chauffeur and like the guys. But basically, New York Ninja shows up, throws a volleyball net on everybody. A guy comes out, puts a gun to New York Ninja's head again and says, "Don't move." But New York Ninja runs away. And then someone puts a gun to that guy's head and says, "Don't move."
Yeah. There's so many asshole lines in this scene.
Oh yeah.
It's just everybody saying like,
"Don't move, asshole."
I don't know who's like on whose side, like, cause the guys, the gang, that faction that like wanted to go off on their own is like helping him out, then not helping him. It's all over the place. And then there's that weird like reverse shot where he jumps back up into the girder thing.
I had to watch that a lot of times to figure out how they did that.
That's what I wrote the same line.
I did think that was pretty effective, though. I mean, it was obvious how they did it, but I was like, "Ooh, look, they just jump backwards."
They did that with the car dragging thing where he jumps into the trunk as it's moving.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty effective, but that volleyball that was so comical.
That really was.
They really had to do one take, like one and done, because they weren't messing around. Like, we're never going to get this right. Let's just roll with it. Move on.
It must have been one of the things where like a PA showed up with the net, and John Liu was like, "I said a net," and he's like, "This is a net." He's like, "This is a volleyball net." I said a net, and the guy's like, "Well, where do you think I'm just going to get a net?"
He just went down to the park and took it off.
But you see way too much of like the white kind of border thing that goes on nets like that. Like that's like way too visible.
I mean, they didn't have much of a budget, so yeah, it's definitely
of course. So Rusty, then we have finally Ninja versus Rat Tail.
Epic battle.
I don't like the swords that Rat Tail uses. They're kind of like your classic fencing swords. Mm-hmm. That would not be my choice.
It was very theatrical, though. It was like very artistic. You were watching some kind of like performance art, seeing Rat Tail go at it.
Well, you could tell that Rat Tail was a committed performer. Like he was probably like a pro at something else.
Do you think he had any training though, or he's just like, "I'm athletic enough, I could pull this off. I know what you want"?
I don't know why, but he just had a vibe of a guy who was like a dancer who was like, "I will work the swords into it."
It's funny that the guy that voiced him looks like him.
This sun was setting fast during this fight. It was like
they had to.
You start feeling tense. You're like, guys, like it's becoming dark. We got to wrap this up. We're running out of light here.
Was that a deliberate choice though to make it seem like it was such an epic battle?
There's no way. There's no way that was a deliberate choice. That really feels like we're fucked. Just finish it. But Rusty, 2 more times in this scene, people put guns to people's heads and say, "Drop it, asshole." 2 more times. Like the count is like over 10. It's kind of insane.
That's what the detective, right? Where he's like, rolls up on the place where they have them holding the women.
So then Ninja appears at that HQ and he starts freeing everybody. And the cop, like I said, she's like grinning when he rescues her. Like she has a very likable look on her face, but it's like kind of a weird look to have when you're chained up like Jesus.
Him freeing them, you clearly know he's not even coming close to touching anywhere near them or the chains.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny looking.
And I think it'll be a surprise to no one that someone comes in and says, "Don't move, asshole," again with a gun. But then fighting just breaks out. The cop does that me-level karate. Man, the gangster, like she like does like the weakest punches on a guy who just collapses and is like knocked out. What did that guy feel like when he woke up?
Wait, which guy?
The guy that the woman cop fights. Like she has like the weakest moves and he like drops like a rock. Like when he woke up, it's like, "Where am I?" He's like, "Last thing I remember, I was getting a set of very basic karate moves at extremely slow speed."
And she was standing so like this box, like squared up, like just like a big target. And she's just like standing in front of him, like throwing these weird like side punches.
Now I have a theory here because Jack, who I realize we've never identified by name, Jack, who is the male reporter, starts acting very strangely.
The
cameraman. And it turns out that he's possessed by the plutonium killer, who did not
I don't think he's possessed. I think you're wrong on this one.
Really?
Yeah. I think because here's what I'm thinking from the scene prior to that, where the plutonium man or killer is looking at the photo of him with the bloody eyes. Mm-hmm. He lights the photo, which is causing his skin to melt. And I think he kind of molds his skin, his waxy skin, to look like him. So he's like, and so when he's in that scene, he's the plutonium killer, not Jack. He's not possessed because that's when they pull his face off. Remember?
Oh yes, I do remember that. Okay, yeah. So,
but he's so he put all that work in. He's so unnatural.
Yeah, he's like he took on the guy's face and then didn't bother to like change his dialogue at all.
It's like, "Jack, you're acting different." He's just like, "Fuck off." Like, "Jack, the ninja's here." He's just like, "I don't fuck you."
Now we have the final battle between New York Ninja and Plutonium Killer. This is epic. I'm not even joking. This is an epic battle.
It's like 25 minutes of the movie because
New York Ninja brings out a fan and he says, "You think a fan could stop this bullet?" And then at one point they're wrestling. New York Ninja has the fan and he has his pen that shoots pins. And I was like, this is a pathetic assortment of weapons to be struggling over. Just when the New York Ninja has the upper hand of the Plutonium Killer, just when you think it's over, you'll never believe what happens, Rusty. Someone puts a gun to New York Ninja's head and says, "Drop it, asshole." It's really surreal. But then things really escalate because the Plutonium Killer goes to escape in the helicopter. Mm-hmm. And this is where they must have gotten like a stunt team that was like, "We do this one thing with a helicopter," because this actually seemed pretty dangerous. Like the ninja is holding onto a helicopter by a rope and it looks pretty real. And then what are you laughing? I mean, that looked real. That was definitely really happening.
I think he was more harnessed in though. I don't think he was just holding on for dear life.
I think he was holding on for dear life. I don't know, but he climbs the rope a bit, then kind of like he's getting in the helicopter. And at times there are shots where it looked like the rotors are going. Like I was like, is this?
Yeah, but I think the helicopter I think it was probably hovering over like a cushion if he fell at that point. I mean, yeah, maybe there's some cardboard boxes like that, that extra in Dead End Drive-In.
Could be. I mean, helicopter stunts are actually pretty safe. That's what my friend Vic Moreau used to tell me.
God. Ooh.
Come on down, ninja. So the ninja's climbing up. Oh, okay. I meant to check this, but I didn't. But did you notice? So he's climbing up the helicopter. Then he's like kind of fighting inside.
Yeah.
Then he jumps out. Then like it cuts to a shot of a helicopter in front of like the city. And I swear that was a different helicopter. Like that seemed like stock footage they had. And then it's like, hey, what's that sound? Is that a bomb? And then it blows up.
You had the power to rewind to check yourself. How come you didn't do that?
Because I'm pretty sure that it was. But so Rusty, then the New York Ninja, this is the final beat of this great journey. The New York Ninja, the police are going to arrest him. They're like, come on down, Ninja. We don't have to shoot you. And then a bunch of kids come out with New York Ninja merch and they're jumping up and down like, yay. And the cops are like, we can't arrest this guy with this kind of fan base.
Well, he just kind of slips away too.
That is true.
And they give up on it. No, he's just like, well, he's gone now. This is over.
And now, Rusty.
Wait, I just want to say one thing. You know what the funniest thing is? The cops go to arrest him. They actually apprehend him. They have him in cuffs. And then the guy's just like, let's see who this guy is. And the detective's just like, let's not reveal him just yet. It's like, why? He's like, we'll see it soon enough. Like, I don't know. I do not understand that direction with that. But
that is another thing that felt like a thing at the movies that we made as like teenagers. It would have been like, well, let's do that scene later. I was going to say the next scene, Rusty, one of the best scenes in the film, the very last scene.
I know.
John is looking at a button that says New York Ninja. Like, I love New York Ninja. And he's like, this is awesome. He's like, I love this. And he puts on the button. And the reporter arrives and she's like, New York Ninja is a great guy. He saved the day. And they hug and he looks into the camera and he's like, I know he's a great guy. And he's like looking at us and he like points at us. And I really connected with him. That's the most I bonded with someone in a long time.
Well, the thing you missed about the button that's really meta is that it actually says underneath it a 21st Century Production, which is the production company.
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that. That does become incredibly meta. It's like in RoboCop 2 when the villain is called RoboCop 2.
And then, I mean, I'm sure you teared up during the credits.
I did tear up during the credits. I'm not even kidding because the first big credit is New York Ninja returning LA Ninja. Which we already talked about that. And then there's like the post credit sequence, not post credit, during credit sequence, they must have shot all this like 1984 breakdancing footage of people like with like New York Ninja signs and everything. But the part that made me tear up, Rusty, is there's a message that says there's like a final thank you to the people who worked on the film that they couldn't identify or credit. And it's just sweet to think about this movie that was lost and then made into this artifact, especially I know they were working on it pre-COVID, but it feels like such a COVID project. I don't know. It was nuts.
I was thinking like how this came out, that they finally released it. There has to be somebody that moved in the movie that was so embarrassed of it that like years later, they like built it up the courage to tell their family, like at dinner, there's like, I have to tell you guys something. I was in this movie back in 1984. I'm glad it never came out, but I just want to let you know I did it. And then all of a sudden now here it is. It's
true. But I think only we noticed Vinegar Syndrome releases, not the average family. Not just us, but
But just imagine like geeks. Part of your past is gone. And then like all of a sudden it reappears again.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if John Liu actually watched this though. Do you think he had any interest?
I don't know. It seems like
he has no electricity to watch it. So
I think we gotta track him down like the Akari Warriors. Our plane will crash in the jungle. We'll get shirtless, get like Tech 9s. We'll make our way there.
That's great. Why Vietnam? I wonder why.
It'll end up being like They Live, where he's like, I don't want to watch it. We're like, put on the Blu-ray. We're like doing karate around this whole place. Put it on. No. Rusty, would you recommend New York Ninja?
Oh yeah, it's such a fun movie, and especially if you're someone our age that grew up in the time of the 80s and the Genesis era and stuff. It really has that feeling.
It does.
I like take it back.
Especially if you're from the New York area also, I think really will feel nostalgic.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, I'm a heavy, well, I guess we're both heavy nostalgia guys, but it's not even like that. It's just like a really just fun movie.
Oh, yeah. It just has a great feel to it. All the little kids who look like the kids from the Cropsey documentary.
It's 90 minutes. Like, it's such a fast movie.
Well, that about wraps it up, Rusty. I can't believe we've returned. I can't believe the Archers of Horror.
People wrote us off. They wrote us off, but
they said what? These guys are never coming back.
These bums are washed up, Rock.
Oh boy. But Rusty, tell us, what episode are we going to be back with?
I don't know. Did we establish it? I think I recommended to you The Quiet Earth, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. The Quiet Earth.
It has everything.
I remember this as Really? I remember this as kind of boring and strange, and I haven't seen it since I was 17 years old. I'm looking forward to it.
Really? You saw it? Well, anything at 17 that's like artsy and like deep, you're going to find boring.
Oh, yeah. No, so many good movies sailed over my head when I was 17.
But you'll love it. This could be you. Yeah, the loner type.
Really? Oh, my God. Yeah. All I remember is like everyone on Earth vanishes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great pandemic film because there's been periods where it felt like that.
Now, the big question is, when will we be releasing it? Will it be in 2022?